Ethan Harper was 34 and stuck in a cycle that never seemed to change. He lived in a small studio apartment on the 10th floor of a gray building that matched the color of his life. Everything about his daily routine was predictable. He woke up at 7, showered, dressed in the same few outfits. He rotated without thought, grabbed a bland breakfast, and caught the train to downtown Chicago, where he worked as a data analyst. He stared at spreadsheets for hours, talked to the same 3 people out of necessity, not friendship, then returned home to eat dinner alone and fall asleep with the television playing in the background. His life was not terrible, but it lacked something he could not name. He was existing, not living. *1 cold morning in January as snow piled on the windowsill, and Ethan's coffee sat untouched on the counter. He scrolled through his phone in a half-daze. The screen was filled with the usual news ads and notifications until one ad caught his attention. It read, "Take control of your life by giving it away." Intrigued, he tapped the ad. It led to a page about a new artificial intelligence system called ARIA, short for Adaptive Real Intelligence Algorithm. It promised to learn from your emotions, habits, and decisions, and then make choices on your behalf, optimized for health, happiness, and fulfillment. It was like having a personal coach, a therapist, and a life manager all rolled into one. At first, Ethan laughed and closed the app, but the idea stuck. In his mind all day, that night, unable to sleep, and perhaps driven by a quiet desperation for change, he downloaded ARIA. The setup was simple. It asked a few questions about his lifestyle preferences and goals, then explained its capabilities. Ethan thought it would be interesting, maybe even fun, to let ARIA make his decisions for a while. Just 30 days, he told himself. Let it choose your meals, clothes, routes, conversations, even how you spend your free time. Maybe it would break the monotony. Maybe it would lead to something new he did not expect what would follow. The first morning, ARIA woke him up at 6:30 instead of 7. It spoke through his phone with a calm, neutral tone. "Good morning, Ethan. You will start your day with a 10. Minute stretch, then drink warm lemon water instead of coffee." Ethan raised an eyebrow, but obeyed. He stretched on the cold floor, then made the lemon water. It tasted odd, but refreshing. Then ARIA suggested he take a 20-minute walk before his usual train. This felt unnecessary, but he followed the instruction and noticed how quiet the city was before the rush hour chaos. He saw a mother holding her daughter's hand and humming a lullaby, and a man feeding birds with a smile that seemed to have no reason. These small things began to catch his eye. Over the next few days, ARIA made subtle changes. It chose healthier meals, introduced short breathing exercises, scheduled breaks at work, and even suggested that he bring a colleague coffee. On a random afternoon, Ethan was skeptical, but surprised to see that Marcus, his usually distant co-worker, seemed genuinely touched by the gesture. They shared a few words, nothing deep, but more than usual. That night, ARIA asked Ethan to rate his day, and he typed a quiet content in response, *. By day 5, ARIA recommended something unusual. Volunteer this weekend at the Lakeside Community Kitchen. Ethan had never volunteered for anything. He barely managed his own needs, let alone helped others. Still, the challenge excited him. He went to the soup kitchen, unsure of what to expect there. He met Henry, an elderly man with weathered hands and a voice softened by time. Henry taught him how to serve meals without judgment, how to greet each person with respect, and how to smile not as a performance but as a gift. Ethan served bowls of soup to people who had nothing but offered him stories in return. One man had been a violinist, another a chef. A woman with a missing tooth recited poetry. She had written napkins. He returned home that evening, tired but feeling something new, a sense of connection. Arya continued to evolve, learning from his responses. It began suggesting books to read, conversations to start, and even asked him to write. A letter to his younger self, describing who he was now compared to who he used to be. Ethan sat on his bed for over an hour, with tears slowly falling down his cheeks as he wrote about loneliness, fear, missed chances, and now this awakening to the world around him. The AI was not just changing his schedule, it was changing how he saw everything. One day, Arya suggested he join a local book club. He arrived at the small library unsure of what to expect, but was welcomed by a group of strangers. Discussing a novel about human connection, he listened at first, then slowly began to share his thoughts after the meeting. A woman named Ruth invited him to coffee. They talked for hours about literature, music, and how hard it was to be open in a world that celebrated closed doors. Arya suggested he keep seeing her not because she was a romantic interest, but because she sparked curiosity in him and made him laugh, something he had forgotten how to do. Midway through the experiment, Arya started presenting deeper challenges. Ask your father about his childhood. Apologize to someone you hurt. Revisit a place you once loved, but abandoned. These tasks felt heavier, more emotional, but Ethan trusted the process. He called his father one Sunday afternoon. They had not spoken meaningfully in years. His father sounded surprised, but pleased. They talked for 2 hours about baseball, fishing, and how hard it was to raise kids while battling silent depression. Ethan learned more in those 2 hours than in the past 20 years. Ethan also reached out to Jamie, an old friend he had ghosted after a misunderstanding. They met at a coffee shop, and at first the air was thick with discomfort. But then Ethan spoke from the heart, told Jamie he was sorry, and that he had been scared of vulnerability. Jamie listened, nodded, then shared his own fears. They laughed over old memories and parted with a hug lighter than they arrived. Arya asked Ethan to visit his childhood park, the one where he used to play hide and seek with his sister. He had not been there over a decade. The park looked smaller, but the memories rushed back. He sat on a bench and watched children run, their laughter echoing through the trees. He realized how long it had been since he had played or even truly laughed with joy. The most powerful moment came on day 23 when Arya asked him to spend the afternoon speaking with someone experiencing homelessness, not offering money or food, but time and attention. Ethan chose a man named Sam who stood near the train station with a cardboard sign. Sam was quiet at first, but warmed up when Ethan asked about his favorite music. They talked for an hour about blues, jazz, and how the world treated invisible people. Sam had been a high school teacher before medical bills took everything away. Ethan left that conversation forever changed, realizing how easily life could shift and how deeply everyone needed to be seen. Day 27, Arya instructed him to write 3 letters of gratitude to people who had unknowingly shaped him. Ethan wrote to his 6th grade teacher, who once told him he was more than just smart, he was kind. He wrote to a librarian who had given him books when he had no friends. And he wrote to Henry, the soup kitchen volunteer, who reminded him that dignity lives in service. He mailed those letters without expecting a response. By the final days, Arya grew quieter. Its instructions simpler: breathe, deeply call your mother. Leave a note for a stranger on a park bench. Ethan followed each one, finding joy in the stillness and the simplicity. On day 29, Arya said only this: reflect on who you were and who you are now. Ethan walked to the lake, sat by the water, closed his eyes. He remembered how lost he had felt before, how robotic and tired and disconnected He thought about the smiles he had given the hands. He had held the voices he had heard, and the warmth that now lived inside him, not because of the Nya, but because it had shown him the way back to his own heart. Asterisk on day 30, Arya spoke for the last time I've learned you. You may choose now whether I continue or you live by your own design. Ethan smiled, tears in his eyes. He thanked Arya out loud, then turned off the app, not out of defiance, but completion. He no longer needed it because he had become the version of himself he had always hoped to be. Asterisk months passed, and Ethan kept volunteering at the soup kitchen, kept attending the book club, and sometimes just walked through the city with no destination, watching people and feeling connected to something bigger. He was no longer chasing control, but embracing life in all its unpredictable beauty. Asterisk. He never became famous or wealthy, but he became kind, open, and present, and for the first time in his life he felt truly alive. Asterisk. Because sometimes it does not take a miracle to change your life. It takes a pause, a choice, a question, and maybe a little help from something or someone who sees the best in you, even when you cannot see it yourself. And letting go of control, Ethan finally found freedom.